Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be looking into the mysterious disappearance of 14-year-old Andrew Gosden. Andrew Gosden was born on the 10th of July 1993 and sadly he was only 14 years old when he went missing. He went missing from the town of Doncaster in England and this occurred on the 14th of September 2007. Andrew was very much a homeboy, and I don't mean homeboy in the normal sense, I mean homebody. That's probably what I should have said. He enjoyed being at home with his family, his mum, his dad and his sister. He was quite close to his sister. He was very much into heavy metal music. He was quite a little genius. He was very good at maths and he did enjoy school. So for him to bunk off school, well, so his parents initially thought, not turn up for school was extremely unusual. It wasn't something that had ever happened before. On the morning of the 14th of September 2007, Andrew's family reported that he did seem a bit irritable and they found it a bit hard to get him out of bed that morning. Now he sets off for school in his school uniform and as far as his parents know, he gets the bus to school. He doesn't get the bus to school. He decides not to get the bus to school and he goes to a local park. The park that Andrew went to was one that was very near to where he lived in Doncaster and it was called Westfield Park. Now he waited there until he knew that his family would be gone and he then returned home. Whilst at home, he gets changed out of his school uniform. He puts his school uniform in the washing machine and gets changed into out of school clothes. Something to note is that he doesn't take his passport, he takes his wallet, he takes his house keys, and he also takes a small PlayStation or PS, I think it's a PS or P2P. Don't quote me, I'm not very much into computer games. It's a small PlayStation device that I believe is about that big. He takes that with him, but something to note is he doesn't take the charger for the item. Now he's seen around 9 o'clock leaving the family home and walking in the direction of the local train station. Something I want to point out now about Andrew is that he's got a very unusual ear. On the right side of his ear, around the top part here, I wouldn't call it a deformity, but his ear is unusual. I'm going to include a picture of the ear so that you can see it, and it's something to note that unless he's had some kind of plastic surgery, even all these years later, Andrew should still have this unusual top part of his ear that would make him very recognisable. So that's something to note in this case. Now en route to the train station, Andrew stops at a local garage, a place where you'd fill up your car with petrol, where there is a cash point machine. Now he's known to have withdrawn £200 from his bank account, but something to note, he did apparently have some money in his drawer at home, around the amount of £100 in cash, and he didn't take it with him, which seems strange. If he was running away from home, surely he would have took all the money he had at home, as well as whatever was in his bank. So then Andrew heads to the local train station. Just after 9:30 a.m. he boards a train on his own to King's Cross. Now the person that he bought the ticket from in the ticket office at Doncaster train station was spoken to by the police, and they reported saying that they did advise Andrew it would be cheaper in the long run to buy a return ticket. Even if he wasn't planning on coming home that day, it could be used within the next few days or later that day. He turned that down and decides to buy a single ticket one way to London. Now the train comes into King's Cross station, which is a very central station in the centre of London, our capital city here in England. Witnesses saw him on the train. Andrew said he was acting quite normal, kept himself to himself and was playing on his little computer, the PlayStation handheld. Now he's caught on CCTV throughout the train station, getting off the train and walking out of the train station. But sadly, that last image of Andrew walking out of King's Cross train station, which is quite a haunting image, is the last image of Andrew. Sadly, the police didn't look into getting CCTV from local businesses and establishments in the King's Cross and central London area until a number of weeks after Andrew had already disappeared. By this point, the majority of businesses and homes and anyone that had cameras or CCTV on their buildings or premises had deleted such footage, as you have to, otherwise you'll end up with too much of it and you have to keep buying new tapes, I imagine. So that is another reason why this case may not have been solved, because the CCTV wasn't obtained quickly enough. Now unfortunately Andrew's parents were not made aware that he was missing from school. The school did try to contact them, but they either dialed the wrong number or there was a problem with the connection of the call, because the family were never advised that Andrew hadn't turned up. Now, at least his school had due diligence and had tried to contact his parents. Unfortunately, they did never get the call. Now they come home from work and their normal routines, normal days at work and school. They're the mum and dad and the sister. Dinner starts to be cooked. I think they then shout up for Andrew, realise he's not in his room. They go and check his room, other rooms in the house. He's not there. I think the washing is then spotted in the washing machine, and as he hasn't come home from school yet, I think they realise that there's a problem. Now, at this point, I think they do speak to someone from the school, and it is revealed that Andrew didn't turn up for school that day. After the parents and the sister of Andrew realise that he is missing, they call the police. The police are called early evening on the day of Andrew's disappearance, and they arrive at the family home at approximately 7 p.m. It is discussed with the police and Andrew's family that it was completely out of character for him to go missing. As I said, he loved his family. He was quite a quiet boy, very much into his music, perhaps into playing computer games, that sort of thing. As I said, loved his heavy metal music, loved bands and music in general. So he had his hobbies, things that he enjoyed in life. And for him to just disappear on a train to London, telling no one where he was going and what his plans were extremely out of character for Andrew. Now, this really should have got the police to, start off an investigation immediately and be out looking for the poor boy. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because he was 14 years old, and it's not the first time a 14-year-old boy or girl hasn't turned up for school. They thought he was truanting, bunking off for the day, and would probably turn up later that night. Now, as we all know, tragically, Andrew never turned up, and all these years have passed on since he went missing. I believe it's nearly 13.5 years now since he went missing, and still nothing. Now, it is known that Andrew had a mobile phone previously, but it was something that had been broken or lost, and it wasn't something that he was that bothered about replacing. So he couldn't be traced from a mobile phone, which obviously hampered this investigation. As I said, the CCTV wasn't looked at quickly enough in order to obtain it from companies in the local area before they deleted the records of the CCTV. This just generally hampered the investigation. Now, there were numerous witness reports of Andrew the day he goes missing, and not only that, there were over 100 reports of Andrew being sighted within the UK in the year after his disappearance. One of the first sightings of him on the day of his disappearance, the 14th of September 2007, was at a Burger King on Oxford Street in London. Now, Oxford Street in London is very central London, and it's not far from King's Cross. It's walking distance, or he could have hopped on a bus or on the tube. And as I don't think the CCTV was looked at quickly enough, no one ever knows whether he used public transport or whether he walked around the centre of London that day. He is then apparently seen at Covent Garden, again, not far from King's Cross, not far from Oxford Street. So he's staying within a local area, it would have seemed. Someone else said that day that they saw him at a shopping centre, sorry, not a supermarket, a shopping centre, or as you say in America, a shopping mall, where he was seen to be mulling around by himself. No one said that he was acting strangely. No one reports seeing him with anybody else that day. Another witness, again, on the same day of the disappearance, sees him in London walking up a road called Sheen Road. Now, I just want to make sure I get this right. He walks up Sheen, oh, sorry, I have got it wrong. He walks up Sheen Lane towards Upper Richmond Road in central London. Now, if any of you guys know that location, or you were there in 07, or you know anyone that might have been, have a chat with them. Perhaps some fresh information could come to light about this tragic disappearance. I think what's always fascinated me about the case of Andrew and his disappearance is the fact that he was only 14 years old. In 2007, as far as I'm aware, not that many 14-year-olds just disappeared. And as far as we were all kind of led to believe to start with, he walks out of King's Cross train station and disappears off the face of the earth. Now, he obviously doesn't disappear off the face of the earth, if the witness reports are to be believed. And not only that, as I now know for definite that the police didn't follow up the CCTV footage in the local area quickly enough, that's why that is his last appearance on CCTV, because the police didn't get it quickly enough for other businesses and premises where they could have had lots of other images of him, which could have pieced together where he went and potentially where he ended up that day. Now, it's extremely tragic for Andrew's family that the police didn't get the CCTV footage quickly enough, as it really could have stopped this becoming the mysterious cold case that it has. Something to note is that Andrew's bank account was never used again after the day of his disappearance, where he withdrew £200 from the cash point machine at the local garage in Doncaster. It's never used again, so any trail of him goes completely cold after the day of his disappearance. Now that makes it an extremely difficult investigation for the police, and it's kind of not surprising that this case went cold as quickly as it did. Now, Andrew's family and friends over the years and in the immediate aftermath of his disappearance put out a big appeal on the telly with Missing People, the charity. They gave out flyers. They went all around the country to London and in Doncaster where they lived, trying to get Andrew's profile out there. Unfortunately, after all their, efforts that they put in and the time that they put in with these days where they'd go out giving out posters of Andrew and asking if anyone had seen them, unfortunately nothing ever came from that. Something else is that's extremely tragic is it was thought that perhaps Andrew could have fallen into the River Thames by mistake, had an accident. The River Thames was searched by sonar. Unfortunately, they didn't find Andrew, but what the police did find tragically was a body. Now, it wasn't the body of Andrew. I don't know whether his family were informed of that before they knew the identity of the body, which must have been awful for them if they were, but the body that was found wasn't Andrew. Now, some other person's family might have got some closure. I don't know if that was another missing person, but the result from the search of the River Thames was that Andrew was never found. Now, I'd like to go through what Andrew was wearing that day, and I'd like to get it correct for all of you. He was wearing trainers and black jeans. He had a black Slipknot t-shirt on, and Slipknot are a heavy metal band. He also had a watch on, and I just want to make sure I haven't missed anything. He was 5'3" tall at the time of his disappearance with light brown hair. He also wore glasses, and I think I've already mentioned that he was wearing a watch, and he had a black canvas over body bag, which means that it had a strap that comes across the body like that. Something else to note, as I said, he was wearing a Slipknot t-shirt. As I've already said, he was very much into heavy metal music, and the bands that are quite like Slipknot were playing in the local area, I think, that same day. Not only that, another band that he liked were going to be doing a signing of records or CDs of music sort of format, whether CD or records within a local record shop, and that was happening within a couple of days of his disappearance. Could it be that he travelled to London to watch his band play that night? Did he intend on going home, or did he run away from home, never wanting to go home, and it's just a coincidence that a band that he did like were playing in London on the day of his disappearance? I guess we'll probably never know. Now, there haven't been many breaks in this cold case, but some strange occurrences have happened since Andrew went missing in the September of 2007. At some point in 2008, a man walked into a police station in Leominster, which was closed. They had an out-of-hours intercom. The man left a message saying that he had information about Andrew Gosden's disappearance and that he'd like to speak with someone. By the time the message is picked up by the police and they try to get hold of the man, they can't. He's disappeared, and unfortunately that lead went cold very quickly as he was never able to be gotten hold of. Appeals were put out by Andrew's family to get hold of the man, to find out what he knew, but unfortunately it never came to anything. Now, some 10 years after Andrew's disappearance in 2017, someone was talking to somebody else online, and the person that got in contact with the police were talking to somebody online with the user or handle of Andy Rue. Now, I'm not certain of the website or the forum that these two people were talking in, but Andy Rue confided in the person online that they needed £200 and were desperate because they'd split with their partner and couldn't afford to pay their rent. Now, they were seeking for the person online to help them out. I believe they told the person online that they didn't have a bank account because the person online was trying to help them to send them the money. And when asked why, because I believe the person was in their 20s by this point, they replied, because I went missing at the age of 14, and since then I've never been able to get a bank account. Now, this was reported to the police, and Andy Rue was meant to be located in somewhere in England called Lincoln. Now, the family from Doncaster travelled to Lincoln to search the area to see if they can spot Andrew. Nothing comes of it. They returned numerous times to the Lincoln area. An appeal is done again in the press and the media, in newspapers, in radio and on television. Unfortunately, it comes to nothing. Thousands and thousands of leaflets with Andrew's face on, his missing poster, were given out. And unfortunately, more tragedy for the family 10 years after his disappearance because it didn't result in anything. Now, if you're already aware of this case, there are numerous theories about what happened to Andrew. One of the most obvious ones is that he just ran away from home. But what happened to him since? Why has he never got in contact with his family? There are numerous theories about why he may have run away from home. Was he being bullied at school? That's not been reported by anyone, and he hadn't told his family that he was, so that's not really a big plausible theory. Could he have been gay and that he was worried about his sexuality? Now, no one knew that for definite, but it could have been that, and that he was worried about telling his family, who were religious. His family have since said his sexuality, whether gay or straight, wasn't going to be an issue for them. They were very liberal, and they would have loved him whatever. There would have been hugs at home for him, whatever, or something that they've said about that subject or that matter. Now, as I said, I don't know whether it was Andrew's sexuality that made him run away from home. Did he run away from home? Was he just going to a concert for the day? Is that the reason he got the train from Doncaster to King's Cross in September 2007? As I said before, did Andrew just go to London that day to go to a concert and he was going to go back home? No passport was taken. He didn't take the charger for his PlayStation handheld device, but regarding the device and having the charger being left at home, did he do that to throw his parents off? Did he do that to make them think he was coming home so the search for him wouldn't start as soon? You just can't be sure. There are theories out there that he'd been groomed by somebody online, perhaps a paedophile. But as Andrew didn't have a mobile phone and they didn't really have much internet access at the home, the family home, I believe the sister might have had a laptop that he occasionally used. How did he get on the internet? Now, there are some theories that he may have had a personal mobile phone his family weren't aware of, that maybe an older person, an adult or another friend had given to him, and he could have had access to the internet to speak to someone online, and his parents just weren't aware of it. Now, another theory here is that could Andrew have been depressed and suicidal, and did he take his own life? Now, I find that hard to believe. Apparently, he had some problems and felt a bit down and anxious in the lead up to his disappearance, but he was a 14-year-old boy who liked heavy metal music. Now, he might not have been depressed, and perhaps that was just his persona at that point in time. Perhaps it was a bit dark. Teenage boys go through strange phases, as do teenage girls. So perhaps he wasn't depressed or suicidal, and the fact that a body's never been found, if he had have taken his own life, I'm not sure that I buy that theory. Now, there is another theory out there that he was murdered. Now, this could have been carried out by anybody, but there is another theory surrounding murder, that there was a serial killer on the loose. Another boy goes missing the same year as Andrew in not too far away distance to where he goes missing. Could there be a serial killer on the loose? Could there have been a serial killer on the loose in London? I guess we'll never know, or maybe we will. Now, I'm sure there are more theories than the ones I'm going to discuss with you, so apologies if I haven't gone through every theory out there in the ether, on the internet, online. But the final theory I am going to discuss is accidental death. Now, as I said, the River Thames was searched via sonar, and Andrew's body was never found. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't have an accident elsewhere. He could have had an accident within some of the green spaces within London, but as the parks within London are all sort of spaces that are regularly roamed by dog walkers, joggers, families out with children playing in the parks, I can't imagine that he would have had an accident in one of the local green spaces and not been found, especially after all this time. Now, that doesn't mean it's not a possibility, because it is, but personally, I don't buy the theory that Andrew had an accident and died accidentally. Now, personally, my theory on this is that Andrew did intend on running away. I'm not sure that he planned on going home that night. Perhaps it was something he was just going to do for a couple of years and see how it went, and then it got too far, and he's never dared admit to his family why he ran away. We'll never know. Was he being bullied? Was it his sexuality? At 14 years old, had he met someone online, a paedophile? I really hope not. Or was it just that he had friends in London? Now, he was known to have visited London before. He did have friends in London, and he was fully au fait with using a railway network and being on trains. It wasn't the first time that he'd been on a train. So, he wasn't a stupid kid. He would have been able to find his way around London to a degree, although it is a massive city. He could have got lost in the city. And did someone find him and, did something bad happen to him? Was it just a chance attack or a murder? Is he even dead? I really hope that the Andy Roo that was speaking to somebody online a few years back in 2017 is really Andrew, and let's hope one day his family and friends might actually be able to know what happened to him. Now, it really is such a tragic and sad case. I cannot imagine how a family must feel when their 14-year-old son disappears. Also, Andrew had an older sister who's had to go through life without her brother. I can't imagine how hard that must be. Andrew's dad has fully admitted that he's had depression and has really struggled with life and just trying to get out of bed in the morning, not knowing whether you're ever going to know what happened to your son. It must be truly dreadful. So if anybody out there knows what happened to Andrew Gosden, I know it's a long time ago that he went missing in 2007, but if you know anything, go to the police, go to Crime Stoppers, tell a friend, get them to make the report on your behalf. This can all be done anonymously, and give Andrew Gosden's family some peace and just some knowledge of what happened to him. They have said, even if he's dead, they'd rather know so they can give the poor lad a funeral. I'm really hoping that he's not passed away and that he is out there somewhere, and that if it's got so far that he doesn't dare tell his family why he ran away, perhaps one day he'll find the courage to. And I really pray that one day the case of Andrew Gosden will be solved and it doesn't remain a cold case forever. I really hope his family someday get answers. And as I said, if any of you guys know what happened to Andrew, please get in contact with the authorities. I really hope and pray that one day the tragic and very mysterious disappearance of Andrew Gosden will finally be solved.